The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all enjoying the first day of Autodesk University. Just wanted to quickly introduce myself and what we'll be showing today. My name is Tanya and I'm the marketing manager over here at Struxoft Solutions. Today we'll be showing our star solution, MWF, or Metal Wood Framer. MWF simplifies complex Revit framing with its powerful range of tools for modeling, clash detection, custom construction documentation, and optional output to CNC machines. It's available in wood or light gauge steel. Today, however, we'll be focusing on our steel solutions, which are MWF Pro Metal and MWF Advanced Metal. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to send them through the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll make sure to get to those as soon as possible. All right, I'll now pass it over to our senior technician, Christina, and she'll dive right in.
All right, thanks, Tanya. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon or morning, wherever you are in the world. So like Tanya mentioned, we're going to take a look at MWF Metal today. So for anyone who's new to Struxoft or who's new to MWF in general, we basically just create a direct plugin that goes into Revit, and we take some kind of existing architectural model, the walls, floors, ceilings, we can do roofs and trusses as well, and basically convert those elements and use them for framing, convert them into panels, and just use the existing Revit architecture and all of the families that can come out of the box with Revit. So again, my name is Christina. I'm a technical sales associate here at Struxoft. And for any kind of questions or inquiries, here's my contact information below. So feel free to go ahead and send us an email or give us a call with any questions you may have. So since we are sticking with metal today, I thought we can kind of go over this pretty simple commercial building and go through some of the basics of MWF and how to get started. So for anyone who's, again, brand new to the software, MWF stands for Metal Wood Framer. So like Tanya mentioned, products come in both types. And we basically convert, in this case, I'm going to stick with walls. I'm going to convert some of these walls into panels. So MWF at its core is what we call a template-based software. So the idea is that you can take these templates, we'll give you some default ones out of the box with the software, and you can kind of convert these, copy them, customize them, and make them your own and build them up to your own standards. So I've already got some templates set up that I'm just going to go ahead and activate. And when I go ahead and say create, it's going to convert each of these walls into singular panels. It'll do the framing automatically. It's going to recognize the openings that I've got set up in here and frame out according to my templates. So if I just go into the properties, this is basically the main brain of the panel, if I can call it that. And this is exactly what you can save to your template. So we're just in Revit, so you just load in the Revit families that you need, verticals or structural columns, horizontals or structural framing. So you can load those in, choose what you like. And then if we get into some of the meteor options, if you wanted to add in bearing headers, something like that, or add in maybe some blocking like I have in these panels here. These are all things that you can customize within MWF, within this properties window. And then the idea is that once you have kind of your basics set up in your template, you can go ahead and save this, reuse this throughout the project, and then you can even export this and bring it into other projects. So that's the basic idea of the software. It's a little bit of legwork at the beginning, but then everything else should be pretty automated. And part of that automation is also setting up a feature that we call mapping, and we've got rule sets that you can set up as well. So I can start linking the templates that I've created to my Revit walls. And this is really going to kind of kick in the automation of being able to grab a bunch of different wall types at once. I can use Quick Create, and then it'll all frame out automatically according to my templates and according to that map. So my interior ones and my exterior walls are getting different sizes of studs automatically with that map setup. Everything is parametric as well. So if you do have to move anything, maybe if I shift my door, if my wall, if I wanted to change the length, I can drag it. There's a regenerate feature, which if you already have panels in there, give your wall a quick refresh and it'll update with those necessary changes. So if anything changes on the fly, you can just give it a refresh and your panels will be up to date. So I have been talking about the templates a little bit and how kind of everything can be automated. But since you are still in Revit, you can still, of course, do manual changes that you've grown accustomed with. So if you want to use a quick copy paste, move some studs around, there is a slew of edits that you can do as well, where once you run our edits commands, it'll save these kinds of changes to the panel. I could also do things like maybe use our own edits if I want to quickly double something up. Maybe let's make this back to back. So I can do these kinds of edits. They're savable, they'll be regenerable anytime you move the wall around or change anything that can occur in the model. And these are individual changes that you can make on the fly as well. So not everything has to be kind of automated. The idea is that you do probably the bulk of the work with those templates, get the bulk of your framing in, and then you could always go in and do a little bit of manual modifications that you need. The other aspect with the software that I want to talk about a little bit is this term that we used, that we came up with, called a marker. So you'll probably notice I've got some truss headers already set up. My walls are also joined together, and those are done with something that we bring into the software that comes preloaded, and that's called a marker. So it's basically preloaded information, kind of like the templates that you can duplicate, customize, and make your own. So a good example is kind of my standard truss header that I have here. It's just a marker that I've taken and I can duplicate and customize. I can choose the sizing of the families. I've got clearance options. I can choose the positioning of the cripples if I want it between the V's, inside the V's. So you can kind of customize this. And then all you have to do is grab your openings, apply it, and it'll take on that header configuration automatically. And same idea with it being regenerable. If I want to change this header on the fly, I want to maybe put a box header in there instead, I can always go change that, give it a quick refresh, and then my panel updates with the new information. So again, kind of big picture with the software, you get your templates set up, you get your markers set up, and then majority of the framing really should be done for you. With the opening markers in particular, I've kind of just been manually applying them. but if you do want to create rules, get that a little bit more, basically create them with a bit more intelligence. And then we do have rule sets that, again, you can build into your templates and it'll automate it just that much faster. So I can make rules for windows, let's say, that are 4 to 6 feet wide. I can go so far as to say if they're on a specific level or in a specific Revit wall. And I can go ahead and create this rule, save it to my template, and then again, once I blanket create my building, all of my headers and opening conditions will be framed out automatically. So the joins that we use to join the wall panels together also have that similar kind of idea. They're preloaded information, so if you do have any kind of custom join conditions, chances are they come out of the box with the software, but we could always make these as well. These are super easy to customize, and you could always load them in. And again, I can kind of just grab a corner, place a join. It filters out that I've got a corner selected automatically and gives me the list to choose from of how I want that corner to frame. So maybe I'll pick one with this backer. I can say, okay, that's where I've kind of got these arrows set up. It's just to designate that there's a join there. And then as soon as you create these panels, you'll have that join configuration in there automatically, and you'll be good to go. So that is the framing portion in a nutshell, I'd say, at least in terms of the walls. It's really just getting your templates and your rules set up, and then you're pretty much free to grab your walls, say create. 90% of the framing should be done automatically according to the rules that you have set up. And then, of course, everything is exportable. If you reuse a lot of the same standards, you can bring that into other projects. So another aspect of the software that I thought we should take a look at today is also the coordination. So this is another tool that we have in the software as well, where if you do have MEP or generic objects, a structural link, pretty much any type of object, you can bring that into your existing Revit model. In this case, I do have a link, and I can set that up and run our clash detection tool. So what this is going to do is basically just look at the wall penetrance that I have set up and create the openings for me automatically. So again, anything on this list works. And as long as your link is three-dimensional, has coordinates, some kind of volume, and Revit can bring it in, we can pretty much work with that. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my rule set, which I'll touch on in a minute. But as soon as I let this run, it's really fairly quick. It's just going to go ahead and punch out the ducts that I've linked in with these Revit wall openings. And this is, again, another opening type that we can recognize like we would a window or a door. And it's also automatically stamped with a marker. So this, again, is kind of feeding into that automation a little bit and the rule set idea that we have, where I've just essentially set this up based on the size of my duct. So basically, anything, in this case that's 6 to 10 inches wide, gets a 1-inch tolerance and a specific marker type. So once that's set up, I can pretty much go ahead and grab these and frame it out like I would any other opening. So with this interference tool, obviously, once everything is kind of framed out, it will just frame like we would any other opening. But once you do run clash detection, there are options to kind of review these openings. So if I don't have anything selected and I go ahead and look at the report, it'll show me all of the openings that were created. It'll highlight it for me in the project. I could also select the host, which will just actually grab the wall type itself. Ooh, sorry about that. So I do have options to kind of review and cover my openings as they've been created. And if I do notice that maybe two openings are a little close together, I do also have options to kind of merge these, and I can bring them into one larger opening. And again, once I give that a quick refresh, it'll just frame out like normal. So this is one tool that we have that you can use for coordination purposes, or can bring in your MEP structural links. And another tool that I did want to touch on, which is a newer one that we added recently and something I think is pretty cool, is the MEP Clash. So if you actually do have piping, electrical running through your studs, if you're planning on sending this to a roll former, we do have an option that'll automatically put the punches in there. You'll be able to see them modeled. And when you actually go ahead and send this to your roll former, it'll be picked up by the CNC. So this is just a pipe that I've modeled in myself with Revit. I, of course, have it set up automatically, but pretty much anywhere that pipe runs, it's even running through my piece of track over here. Anywhere that pipe is running, it gets punched out with a hole automatically. So a nice little feature, and this is something that'll be visible if ever you upload these panels to Onyx, or if you send this to be rolled to CNC. So before we move on to the floors and maybe some of the trusses, as I've been mentioning kind of CNC, one thing that you can use MWF for as well is for production work. So I did mention that I've kind of been framing these out as singular walls per panel, but we do have options for panelization, of course. So one of the first ones are these split markers. So this is another tool that's in the software where if you do receive a model with maybe an 80'4" length wall, like I have in this case, we have options where I can pre-split these walls with the software. In this case, I can put in my maximum panel length, any kind of minimums, and we basically put in the split marker, which you can already see I have in this wall here. And this is just going to tell the panel exactly where to break. So I've already placed it in here. And the marker itself also does have a 1/2 inch gap considered. So when my panel go heads and frames, I'll have that 1/2 inch gap in between my end studs. So you can see here, I'll have a few panels already set up. It's going to break exactly where my marker is. And again, everything's regenerable. So if you do go ahead and drop in your split markers, maybe it's a little too close to your window, it's not in a great spot. You could, of course, always move these, give your panel a regen, and it'll go ahead and snap to the new location. So that's one thing a bit more geared towards production. And last thing I want to touch on, of course, again, leaning towards production, is to touch on the shop drawings. So the shop drawings, again, once you kind of have your standard setup and all the views that you want to see in there, you can blanket select your project and it'll create one panel per sheet. So just to give you an idea for my shop drawings setup today, I basically have my framing elevation, my cut lists. I can add section views. We also use Revit Schedules, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But basically you can customize these shop drawings however you'd like. If I go into my framing elevation, I'm able to pick what kind of dimensions I want to see. I can choose how my members are labeled. Basically set up all of my corresponding views. And then I just have to go ahead and let this generate, grab my panels, and it'll throw in that one panel per sheet, all of my dimensions, and everything will be done automatically. So just to give you an idea, I also had my MEP visible in this one wall, so I can see exactly what's going on. But all of my studs are labeled, everything's dimensioned. Top and bottom views could also include section views of your wall. And I also have a full cut list off to the side. That's calculated and placed on the sheet automatically per panel. And I did mention Revit Schedules. All of our build materials can now be used as a Revit schedule. And again, if for anyone who's familiar with Revit Schedules, you know how powerful this can be. So you can set up pretty much any kind of parameter that you want to see in there. You can create a master that we use and we'll apply our own filters and run them per panel. But if you wanted to add weights, if there's a cost associated per length that you wanted to add in, you can basically set up this big master schedule, and we use these in our shop drawings, add in our own filters, and apply it per panel. So that's a great feature that you can use to quantify everything in your project. So for the last 5 or so minutes, I'm just going to touch quickly on the floors and some of the trusses. And thankfully, it's very, very similar to the walls. It's all template based. So you just have to go ahead and kind of make your templates, and you can associate that to your floors. So one thing I do just want to show off quickly is this floor cutter tool. So if you do have a really large floor, that's how you receive it in a model. I actually just have a model line running across here, and it's basically just going to break these up into 2 usable pieces. So let me go ahead and just grab my floor. There we go. And let's run the floor cutter. So I've now got this more manageable piece that I can use that I can then go ahead and convert into a panel. And for today, I thought we would just go ahead and quickly make some floor trusses. But this works just the same if you need to place regular leg gauge joists. So I am working in advanced metal today. And advanced metal does have a fairly powerful engine if ever you wanted to design your own trusses. So I'm just going to quickly lay out these floor trusses, and then I can go ahead, double back, and always run analysis. I'll be able to generate PDF reports. And according to my loading standards, it's essentially going to let me know if my trusses pass or fail. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly switch over to the truss module. And then I'm able to kind of prompt these in our truss designer. And I can go ahead and run analysis on these trusses. So right now, all I've done is added some supports. I'm just going to assume a simply supported truss. Quickly running analysis on it, and it's just going to tell me if it passes or fails. In this case, I have a failure. I'm not too surprised. But we do have options that'll let us go look at the analysis view. I can always take a look at the physical view as well to get a better understanding of what's going on inside this truss. So just a quick little summary on the coding. AISI 2016, all the loading is applied through here. You can customize your deflections, run this through your analysis, and then again, you can see if your trusses have passed or failed. So we are running out of time for today, guys, so I'm just going to go ahead and quickly reiterate again. For any kind of questions or inquiries, here is all the contact information, and feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email with any kind of questions. So that'll be it for me today. I hope you've all enjoyed this, And again, any questions in the future, feel free to let us know.